Uh, I've been waking up lately and like my eyes just hurt. I don't know why. I feel like I had bottle service every night lately, and I haven't left the house.
It could just be the weather. Usually it's the temperature changing. Does it feel like your whole face hurts?
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, why? What's up, Annie? I'm like, why? Because usually if I felt like that, I would have been out last night at one of Bobby's party, your party. I've been out somewhere. I know the next morning is pain because you guys are party animals. And then I was like, this is COVID. I don't leave my house. What is
Yeah,
going?
I don't know.
Maybe if it's reacting to all the news. Young people are out. Bottle service is back.
It's crazy, but people are acting like nothing is happening.
It's crazy, man. I see the news and I'm like, wait, what am I missing? Am I too old to not take risks anymore? Like, I'm not going out.
Yeah, but I feel the same too. I'm terrified to sit on a patio.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
No
Really
problem.
appreciate it. Tell the people, not about you, because everybody knows you, and I'm going to do a nice intro and stuff. But tell
Okay,
me
fine.
one little thing they don't know about you that today's going to be the reveal. Tell me something about Susan. Maybe I didn't even know.
Okay, so one, it's still on a professional level, but so everybody knows me as Susan the Planner, but nobody knows that I actually come from a high tech background. So I've been in high tech as a marketing manager for the last 12 years.
The alter ego, the
The
other
alter ego.
man. So that was my intro a little bit to you guys. Susan's got an incredible background in business, MBA graduate, and then at some point along the way gets into the side hustle, and then we all know her on the side hustle tip. And when I first met you, I thought this is all you did. You're a wedding planner.
Yeah.
You save weddings and you make brides happy and grooms happy. And then as we got to know each other, I'm like, holy shit, there's like a whole other side to you that the world doesn't know. And in some ways, I can relate because most people that meet me either they meet Satish, the startup entrepreneur guy, and then
Yeah.
right, you're DJing and you do festivals and stuff, and then the other people are like, yo, this is a broke ass artist guy, and this is how we know him. And then they're like, who are you? So the entire thing we started, man, like this is episode 14. I can't believe it's been 14 straight days, weekdays, like hanging out,
Yeah.
talking to people. But what I'm trying to really distill and dissect is how do we find a blueprint for success when so much of our culture is about absolute immediate discount if you're not like an academic kid, right?
Right.
We don't get it. We're an immigrant culture,
Yeah.
but we understand. Go to school, get some kind of education, get a job, work at it for the next 25 years, find somebody to get married to, and then like,
That's
all right,
life.
get a great life, you know, which made sense maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. But there's so much
Yeah.
in people to do something more. So I was like, what is that? So I started working on this book. And then I got stuck. I'm not a writer. So I was like, all right, what do I do while I talk? So let me just go talk to people. And then every week I pick a theme. I talk to friends about it. And then at the end of the week, I've got some awesome content that get turned into a chapter. So that's sort of
That's so cool.
yeah. So that's been my life hack. And this week, really the focus is around like, how do you break through your own mindset when
Hmm.
natural sort of response to anything is don't do it because our brain is wired to for flight, right? So I want to talk to you because you're constantly taking risks and doing things, and I think your side hustle, Beautiful Beginnings, turned 10 years old last year,
Just turned this year in May
2020. Yeah, wow.
2020. Yeah.
I was like, what? Anything happened in 2020? Yes,
I know. Is this a year? I don't know.
yeah, that's right. You had a Zoom celebration.
Yeah.
Oh man, so 10 years is a long time.
It doesn't even feel like it's been 10 years though. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, man. So take me back to like younger version of Susan. Where was his entrepreneur spirit? There's a pattern that people that I speak to that kind of do what you do, kind of what I do.
Mhm.
You can trace it back to a younger version where there's already something percolating, right?
Yeah.
Were you like this as a younger person? Were you getting the support to like think entrepreneurial? Tell me a little bit about the younger version.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because as growing up, I've always had the mindset that I wanted to be a CMO of a big organization. I wanted to have the high up executive position. And then as I started growing older, going to school, doing everything that I did, I became more hands on. So my dad is actually a tailor, so he has his own business as well. So I'd like to say my entrepreneurship came from him.
Ah,
Um, yeah. So throughout school, throughout university and high school, I've always been on the events team. I always took the initiative to start up new ideas, run new events. And I didn't realize this is something I was going to do full time. It was just always something that I love to do. I love to put my creativity in there. I love to just put everyone's ideas together, and I like to take that leadership role and then take
mm,
everyone's thoughts and then run with it.
I love what you just said. A lot of young people I speak to, they struggle with like, how do I find my passion? And then
Yeah.
usually back is like, well, tell me three things that you love to do.
Hmm.
And if you love to do it, and we use words like we love to do stuff when it's truly like something that makes us happy, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love to DJ. I don't know if it's going to be a paying career, but why can't it be? Paris Hilton makes,
Right.
280 grand a show, and she turns an you know uh and so I love the fact that like very early on you started to think about what you love, and then
Hmm.
and that became something that stayed focused. How early like did you realize what entrepreneurship was? Because like my dad was working all the time, like I barely saw the guy,
Yeah.
and for him like working 20 hours a day is his way to like help the family, right? uh
Yeah.
but I never understood what that grind was, and maybe that turned into my hand to like I never want to work for anybody, because if somebody's going to take 20 hours of my life every single day,
Hmm.
I want to own those hours. So for me, like working for somebody at a very early age was a bad thing from what I saw. But you did the
Yeah.
opposite. You're like, man, my dad's hustling. He's an entrepreneur. When did that switch come on?
I would say that switch came on probably not until so I did my undergrad at the University of Waterloo, and with that we had the co-op option. So I think on my first term I had a job at an accounting firm. So I started off in accounting, and then at that job, one of the coworkers had a heart attack on the spot because right because he was so stressed out with the amount of work he had to do, and I think from that point
Really?
on I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in that high level position if this is what my life is going to be like. He was
Hmm.
there 24/7, went home to his family at like 10 p.m., had kids, never got to spend time with them. And from seeing them, I didn't want that lifestyle.
Wow, what a beautiful insight. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't pay attention to the things that are obvious in front of us. And
Yeah. And for me, I look at everything as a sign. It's just, it's who I am. It's something that triggers you that this is not what you should be doing.
man, and when you think it like there's a level of creativity and daydreaming and sort of like openness you have to have in tech, especially in marketing and
Yeah.
overall. And then what you love to do, which is your other side, that's very like OCD, like checklist. I've seen you walkie talkie, hair in a bun. Let's go. Somebody's gonna get married. How does the two personalities start to like grow inside you? And do they compete?
So I wouldn't say that they compete. I think they're on the same page. So I started this 10 years ago. But within that I've taken skills from my professional side and brought that to this. So within that I've learned how to solve problems, how to think creatively, and then how to put together a strategic plan. So I
Mm,
think those are the points that I took from my work life to bring to wedding life.
mm,
And I think, and it's different in the sense they do compete. It's because of my 9 to 5, I'm listening to someone, I have deadlines to meet. But then also, if you think about it too, my boss technically are my clients. So I have my deadlines to meet for them. I have to make sure I check everything off for them. So it kind of works hand in hand.
yeah. And when you're looking at kind of, I want to turn this into a business. Was it early on, like, I love sort of helping people. I mean, you could have taken your skill in project management and did many things with it. Like,
Yeah.
what is it about the wedding industry that spoke to you as a way to channel this passion?
So, and I never in a million years thought this would actually turn into a business itself. I've always had the mindset. My dad was always go to school, get your degree, get your education, do something with it. And then that degree doesn't really relate to what I do. It doesn't go hand in hand. It relates to it, but it's not directly correlated. Um, I wouldn't say it wasn't until maybe my second year of actually doing weddings that I realized I could make something out of it. So my first year, I did weddings completely free just for family and friends. I started off maybe doing like 3 or 4,
Hmm.
and then eventually through referrals and through everything else that grew. And then to the point where I got to doing, now I'm at 30 weddings a year.
Wow.
So it wasn't until so I probably went to from I went to number 3 to 5 to about 10. When I got to that mark where I could do 10 a year is where I realized that I could start taking this and turning into a business.
Hmm. Um, uh, Big shout out to Nirmala, who's helping me make sure my social media game is tight and on point. You know, slowly expanding the team, and she wants to make sure your entire head is in the frame.
Is it
So
in there now? I moved it.
I
I
think we're
think
still
so.
cutting you off a tiny bit up at the top. We want all of your face, Susan.
Okay. Is that
There
better?
you go. There you go. Thank you, Nirmala.
Thank you.
She'll probably be like, no, you got to keep adjusting. So we'll just keep paying attention. Um, so that's really interesting because you started off for free and then you're like, okay, so many of us think the thing that we love is usually the thing that we can't make money on, right? And then when we
Yeah.
try to make money in it, as soon as we hit the first road bump, like I knew I wasn't gonna make money. It's like, the first DJ gig that didn't pay you, or the first whatever that's passionate
Hmm.
and turn into money. We're like, I don't want to do it. But you started consciously not getting revenue, and then in those days when like you met the first bridezilla, you met the first like groom that is just a fool. Um, what made you want to keep going?
I just so I realized early on that stress actually excites me. So it sounds I know it sounds weird.
Is it too early to drink? What are you talking about?
It's not. Um, but so I just realized throughout the years that if you're stressing in that moment, you can't fix anything. So I've always gone into every event that I do with that mindset. If I'm freaking out, if I know things are happening and I'm freaking out, then I can't fix it. But if I know you're stressed out because you're about to get married, you forgot the rings or you forgot something, I can fix that for you. So me knowing that I can fix your stress is what excites me. And I
Man,
think that's why I chose wedding or corporate. Also because the emotion behind it too. With corporate, it's revenue at the end of the day, but with weddings, it's happiness that you get at the end of the day.
hmm. That's really interesting, man. Uh,
Yeah.
how was like your support network? Whether it's friends or family, because those that noise, that voices are very loud, and sometimes people don't know how to deal with it, right? You're
Yeah.
you're following the dream. Your parents are like, oh, Susan graduated. She's got a gig. She's working. Your homies are like, yo, and then you're like, no, I can't do this weekend because I'm busy with a wedding, and I can't do that. Or, I can't do that. You start to like shut the world out sometimes, and
Yeah. And you have to.
right? What was that like? What was that process like for your network?
Yeah. So I'd say in the very beginning, for a family wise, it was more so they just saw this as something that I was just doing for fun. They never really thought it was going to be a business. They essentially thought I was putting way too many hours into it. And then it came to the point now where they actually saw me making money is where they saw it as something that they could be proud of and something that they could actually go and brag about and say that I've achieved this. So they've always just assumed that you went to school, you have your MBA, do something with that.
You
Once
know,
they actually saw me doing this,
yeah, it's
pay
funny you
for
say
it.
that, because I had a similar path where like I think we did Daisy Fest almost 3 years in a row, uh, and my parents would not like, come to the show. And I was
Yeah,
like, yo, this Saturday is coming. It's only once a year, so it's not like you can come the weekend. No, no, no. It's just a fun thing. You're like dancing on
right.
the clown. I don't. And and then my third year, I was like, oh wait, you're making money in this? And I'm like,
Yeah,
of course, I'm making money. Oh, how much making money? And then I was like, why do you care how much I make money? And
yeah,
it's important. And I've always been fascinated, like, why does money make something legit all of a sudden
yeah.
versus it's legit because I'm doing something. What is your relationship with money? There's two camps. People
Hmm.
of color, it's either the one thing we crave and everything we think about is defined by that, or it's the opposite. I don't need it. I hate it because I never had any. Screw you. Like,
Yeah,
it's very interesting because like even my sister and I, we have like my brother and me, my brother and my sister, and
yeah,
I'm like, look, I don't want to do anything for money because I've seen what it does. I want it.
hmm,
I love it, but it's not going to dictate my behavior. And then my brother is a little bit more on the other side of like, no, money defines everything. Like
yeah,
how I measure my moments of like milestones. And then Durga, who I love, she's on the off. She's like, I don't need it. It's cool. I got friends. We can figure it out. I'm like, what? But same household, three different kids,
Yeah.
and it consumes a majority of our decision making. What's your relationship with money?
So I would say I started off when I was again in school, money was everything. Money is the end goal. But as I got older, money is not everything. Money comes and goes. And if I wanted to make money and just retire at the age of 35, I don't think I'd be doing weddings. Like there's money in this industry, but it's I put a lot more hours in than I actually make. And for
Right.
me, that doesn't matter. I'd rather at the end goal make sure everyone's happy versus me making that money on it.
Mm. Would it be different if this was like plan A versus a side hustle? Would you have like went all into a point where you would be the wedding planner in the damn country?
So I don't think so because even still, so I left my full-time job 2 years ago and I took this full-time for 2 years. But I grew it to the point now where I actually have a team. So now I have a team of 7 girls. So majority of the weddings will pass on to each other and then we'll split that up between all of us. But I saw what it did to me full time, and what I realized doing this full time was I still wanted to have a life. I
Mm.
loved what I did, but working every single weekend, not being able to see my families and friends, missing out on life events is what I realized I was lacking in my life. So I love the hustle. I love working 24/7, but I also realized I needed to have that balance. So taking it full time for those 2 years is what made me realize I need to take a step back. I could still do the same amount of weddings that I have, but I need to utilize my network, utilize my team more.
That's a great way to say it, man. And in this chapter, when I'm connecting the dots and all, like how do you build the resiliency and how do you build the breakthrough attitude? One of the things is about redefining money. If
Yeah.
money is literally a way to say there's value for what I'm inputting, then
Yeah.
maybe your definition of money is happiness. And that is
Yeah.
a type of currency. Because I think we get stuck with the word money and it defines
Hmm.
one thing, like dollars, versus in my head, I'm like, if I can look for ways to identify a value exchange or currency exchange, then yeah, I'm doing sofa sessions every day since April 4th.
Yeah.
Over 115 shows, like the most
That's
in my
crazy.
career ever. I've DJ'd every single night since April 4th.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Wow.
right? Right? I've never DJ'd this much even when I was getting paid to DJ. Right? But the value coming out of it is incredible. I spend time with Layla every single night. We've met hundreds of new artists. Like, we've got new friends that I've never met other than on Instagram and Facebook
Yeah.
a night. So I'm trying to, in my book, and when I'm talking to people, to say, hey, if money is like dollar signs, then it'll never be enough because we don't know how to deal with it. Like, how do you imagine $1 million? You can't.
You can't.
But you can imagine what it feels like with human connections or see people and change lives.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting topic around like how do you break through, because if you can change your mindset from I want to create value in everything I do.
Hmm.
In some cases, value is great friendship. I love the fact that I can like just message you. We haven't seen each other over near and be like
Yeah.
on it. You're like, cool, I'm down. Uh,
Yeah.
that is for me valuable. And then in some cases, yes, I want to make sure Daisy Fest can bring in a couple $100,000 because that's the value for that moment. But I
Right.
feel like the idea of money is so tied to one currency. And so, that brings us to the next conversation around like when you're trying to figure out what you're good at and you want to turn it into something. And
Hmm.
we have a lot of young people you mentor. I'm totally lost. I'm in my 20s or I'm in my 50s. I'm like, yo, COVID just knocked me out of my socks and I'm unemployed now. I don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
How can somebody start to think about like connecting passion to opportunity?
So if you go back and think about your strengths, I don't think you really realize what your strengths are until people start to point it out. So for me, I've always had habits of taking on that leadership role, of always being creative. I've always been able to listen to people. And it wasn't until people pointed that out and said, "Hey, you're really good at this," that I realized that, oh, I could actually do something with it. So now, even when I talk to all of my little cousins, everyone that's trying to figure out what to do in life, same thing that you do. Tell me 3 things that you're good at, and let's see what we can do with it.
Mm.
And then that's the way to start. It's always someone will have a conversation with me, and then they'll ask me to pinpoint what I think they're good at. So, for example, with you, I look up to you as my role model because I always see you as that you're dedicated and you're highly motivated.
Yeah,
And
and
that,
back at you. I'm like, holy shit! Like, to do anything that I've seen you do, from helping
mm,
you guys and something to organize stuff that we don't know we're doing. What I've seen at Daisy Fest. I think this is where, like, we don't really ask ourselves what are we good at, and
yeah,
as a culture, we're so focused on identifying what our kids are bad at, and
yes,
and
yeah,
then literally go all in on that for the rest of their lives,
yeah,
right? But if you step back and kind of go, oh, what are you good at, Layla or Shaquille or your niece or nephew?
yeah,
What would that answer be? And then, like, if that thing can grow, that could be fostered. What are we actually, sort of teaching people? Um,
yeah,
Now you're an MBA. I hated school most of my life. As we look into the future and with COVID and things are changing and things like that, where do you see school fit in now? Is it the same importance with an entrepreneur gig economy that's coming out? I don't know what my kids are gonna do, but if one of them is like, I don't want to go to school, I don't know if we'll object to like higher education. Get your grade 12 and your basics, but
yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about education now?
So as much as I love school, I like if I could go back to school, I would. I've always
I
been a
love
nerd.
school.
I did. It was fun. I was that girl that did other people's assignments for them.
Oh man, it's
But
awesome.
I wouldn't say it's the end all be all. So I have friends who never finished school, but they've made something out of. They have their own businesses and they're doing life. Even for me, doing my MBA, I love doing it, but I wouldn't say I learned. It wasn't anything I didn't learn that I didn't know already. What I did get from that was I built my network. So from that,
Mm,
I built connections. I built new doors that I could open. And because of that, I feel like that's what helped me where I am today.
right.
So I don't think education is necessarily everything, but
Mm,
you also have to have that skill and that mentality and mindset to take your skills that you have and turn it into something else.
right, right, right. Um, so the mindset is perfect segue. I'll take a sip of my cup too. Um, I believe habits designed consciously is what's going to create success. Like
Yeah.
organic habits are not going to get you far, um, especially when you're trying to figure out how to connect your passion to something that you love to do and then turn it into revenue or value or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
when you started to think about whether getting that job or because I'm always conscious that like 90% of the people that follow me have great jobs, great careers, they want to
Yeah.
matter more than quit and like go do something, right? So I'm conscious about like making sure anything I do has value for them too. But when you're thinking about like, okay, what's next, which is the first step people don't know. So now you're like, okay, I'm gonna get a job, or I'm gonna start this wedding thing. What's like the process around acquiring customers? Your first sales, did you go door knocking? How many rejections before the first yes? Because we hear it all the time. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
100 no's before the first yes, but we don't
Yeah.
actually know people that made 100 calls that got no's,
Yeah.
that turned into revenue. So talk to us about some of the early days of like the habits and the hustles and the momentum that turned into opportunities.
Yeah. So like I said, the first year I did was all weddings for free. So it was more so, hey, my cousin's getting married, my sister's getting married. Let me see what we can do. And I think I did that free for me for the first year only because I wanted to build my skill. So I've done events just for close family and friends, but I've never done it full scale. So for me, I needed to have that experience before I could start going out there and fully charging people. And then I also knew that was a way that I had to build my referral base. So I knew the industry that I was in, it's all word of mouth. People are going to hire you based on how good someone says you are. And
Mm,
because it's in that family business, once one person gets married, it's going to spread.
yeah.
So the way that I found my customers was building my connections with my clients. The way that I look at my weddings is I look at it as I'm building a relationship and I'm building an extended family. That
Mm,
way I create that relationship and it spreads.
right, right, right. And you're in a competitive business. Uh,
Very.
for about a year, I invested in a small company, Crystal Media. This guy did a
Mhm.
photography video, and I was like, man, I want to get into the game. Everybody's just rocking it. Rajan had a great question. How do you get customers in this business? I think that's what his question was. Um, and it's an interesting thing because I got into it and I realized, wow, like And people hit these guys up and they're like, yeah, it's $5,000 for a video photography package. And they're like, but so and so is only $800. I'm like,
Yeah,
then why are you here if 800 is your number? I don't get
right.
it. Are you looking for 750 somewhere? It's such a cutthroat industry, and I didn't realize it. How do you stay premium? How do you not dilute your value
Yeah.
when the industry by default thinks dilution?
And that's a huge problem we have in the industry too, because there's always someone new that's coming up. There's always someone that's going to undercut. So the other way that we do find customers, which Rajan's waiting for this answer, is through our wedding shows. It's also through promotion. So yes, we get clients through word of mouth, but it's also about keeping your brand alive too. So Must Be Kismet is one of the wedding shows that we use to build our brand and to help us just stay aware and stay what's out there. Social media is a great way of helping too. But the other way we look at it too is I struggled my first few years with pricing. I
Mm,
always found that either I was charging too little or not charging enough.
right.
But now I'm at the point of where I realize how much work I need to put into it. I built my 10 years, and if a client comes back to me and they want to negotiate even further or drop that price, I'm willing to work with them. But if they want to drop thousands, I can't do that. I know how many hours I've put into it, and I think I've built that in me now that I have to stay strong to that. If I keep
Mm,
undercutting myself, I'm going to just take a step backwards. All of those years of building up where I am now is just going to drop.
yeah, 100%. And guys that are watching this, the biggest nugget from this is no matter what the market says, you got to figure
Hmm.
out what you're worth. And
Yeah.
then know that you will carve out a piece of the market that is yours. But in order to say this is my market, you have to understand what you're worth.
Yeah. And the other thing too is don't let social media cloud your mind. It's great to advertise on social media, but I found even for me, I struggled. I would always look to see what other planners were doing and just see what I could do as well. But that's where I start to lose focus of who I was. So it wasn't
Mm,
until I could get out of that mentality to stop comparing myself was I able to grow.
right. And growth is an interesting thing. Some of us grow ourselves and our plate becomes bigger, right? We go from
Mhm.
I can handle one wedding to 5 or 10.
Yeah.
Uh, and some folks, growth is not by growing their plate, but inviting other people to the party, right? Because you are who
Right.
you are. And so much of that comes down to trust. And a lot of entrepreneurs, by default, don't trust most
It's
people,
hard though.
right? It's
Yeah.
about having a great team. Talk to me about how do you attract people to you and how do you develop that trust, which is so fragile. It's more important than money. The people that
Yeah.
you can call and say, hey, do you want to rock this with me? What is your process when you're evaluating who to get into the circle of trust with you from a business perspective? And how much of that is like just the way you think about humans in general? Like, if I don't want to hang out with you, most likely I won't work with you.
See, and it's funny that you say that too, because in most cases, the girls that I have on my team, I love them. They're my family, they're my friends now. But we started off on that business level. But it's more so where they saw me at weddings and they wanted to try something out. So when I hire my girls, I do a trial period with them. I'll do a 3 month period with them just to see how they fit in. I'll throw them into situations. I want to see if they can think on their spot. And there's specific skills that I look for. So if I see you're stressing out, if I throw something at you and you can't handle it or you can't communicate with customers, that's a huge no for me.
Mm,
A majority of our job is first impression. So if I throw you out there and you don't seem like you can handle that stress or handle the environment, if you can't
right.
be friendly with people, then that's huge for me, and I know I can't trust you.
Right. And that's a great point. So much of how you operate once you know why you're doing it and what you're
Hmm.
for is much easier because this is my value, this is what my customers want, this is my brand that's in the marketplace. And
Hmm.
for me to deliver that, these are the things I look for in another human. So I'm not guessing if you fit or not. I'm not taking any
Yeah.
chances. If you fit these three things, we ride or die. And if you don't, peace out. I'll see you at the
And
next.
yeah, and that's the thing with weddings, you don't get a redo. Like it's a one shot, and that's it.
It's like, sorry, can we just try this again tomorrow morning? Like,
Yeah.
we'll be better tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is like one super fond memory from like the side hustle for 10 years? A moment where you're like, this is why I do what I do.
So I've had a few of those, but I would say, okay, so I think one of my favorite weddings was doing the first South Asian wedding at the CN Tower. So before that, I've never even been to the CN Tower. I live in this country. I've never been there. But that week I went up 15 times up and down the CN Tower. And it's so surreal to be at that position where you can say you've done the first thing.
Wow, that's an incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for me. It's like, people look at like the entrepreneur side of me, and they're like, man, you're a business guy, whatever how you do. The one thing that you cannot start a business based on is money. And I learned that very
Yeah.
early on. So I look for other reasons to start a business. And, I remember my first agency. I don't know what an agency was, but I would meet incredible people that are super talented that nobody wants to hire. They're super
Yeah.
talented. And these guys would be like, yo, I'm making a door for $25 an hour. But back in Russia, I was like an incredible programmer. And I was like, man, I got addicted to hiring people whose first jobs in Canada, which met their skill set or their passion, was me. And I would hunt those people where I want to be your first. I want to be the first person who recognized your talent in a country
Yeah.
that hasn't recognized it. And almost 80% of the people we hired, their first job in the country that was the recognition of their education, of their background, or skill was us. And that became
Mhm.
like my addiction when Blue Band, more than like let's go sell websites or whatever.
Yeah.
And that really made me like want to fight, because now if we won more businesses and we made more money and we made more margins, I can hire more people. And the addiction to hire folks was so strong that I would make 1,000 phone calls. I would go and door knock, and I would get rejection after rejection because I needed to get to the opportunity so I can do what I'm doing because that felt good,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know. And it's such a moment of like click when it happened, uh, which is what I dream for people. Like anybody that wants to get into business, I'm like, I wish you made a lot of money, but I wish you get that one moment where things click.
Yeah. And then it's also even like rejections. I think rejections is what made me stronger too, because I've always asked why you would say no. It's either been because of pricing or they found someone else who referred them as a family friend. And I use that to pinpoint what I need to do. So from that point on is where I knew I needed to build my testimonials and put my name out there more.
Yeah. And testimonials are super important in your business. And so
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
people say, I had a great experience with Susan and Satish, it's a big thing. What are some of the routine and habits that you've like developed over the years that make you who you are? Like these little things like I suck at like creating consistency, and I've been
Yeah.
doing on, and that's why this show is really important because I wrote the first 100 pages uh, with that first high. For me, like I'm writing a book, I'm an author. And then it got to like 80, 90 pages, and I was like, ah, man, I don't know what to write next. And the red squiggly lines in the word was pissing me off more than like what I was writing. And so this is a way to hack myself to go, okay, I'm committed, 9 a.m., I got to meet with somebody and have a discussion, and I got a book. Um, but if I'm not that obsessed, I'm not good. Like I can't do stuff like occasionally. I have to be all,
Yeah.
or I don't get out of bed. What are some of the habits that you've created that helps you do what you do?
So I'd say one of the hardest things is building a routine. Like through COVID, my routine is gone.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get back into that focus now, even with working and getting into back to wedding life. Um, but I think the one thing that I keep remembering is I've already put 10 years into this. Why am I going to give up now? So I try to wake up with the mentality. There's so many days where I sit here and I just want to give up. Like there's COVID going on. What am I going to do? Events, we don't know what's going to happen. But now I'm trying to find new creative ways to make them happen, work with my clients now and see what we can do next. So I think my daily routine now is I wake up, I start off with my smoothie, and then I start my to-do list. I'm the type of person that needs to have a to-do list and scratch things off. I can't do things on the computer. I need to physically scratch it off just to give me that feeling that it's
This
right.
this this is my
Yeah.
secret sauce, people. If you're watching
Yeah.
me, what's Susan's and Satish's secret sauce? Get a book and a pen.
And scratch it off. It makes you feel so much more accomplished, like you're done. Then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah. How do you avoid to-do list fatigue? Wait,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything's on that list, and you're like, oh man, I'm never gonna finish today.
Well, and that's the thing. You look at it too, and you get overwhelmed. So I start my to-do list. It could be pages, but what I do is I take at least my top five that I know I can get done that day, or the ones I put them in an order of priority. So things that I know I need to get done, I'll put at the top. And then if I can't get it done, I know I can do it the next day.
Right. Yeah. Avanti was talking about this other matrix on Monday where it's a
Hmm.
full column thing, and it's like, top right hand is urgent is important, and then
Hmm.
urgent, not important, important, not important at all. And then you sort of
Yeah.
set, I started doing that a couple of years ago, and then I stopped because I just got into like just brain dump of stuff.
Yeah.
But I started doing it again after I spoke with him on Monday, and it's really interesting when you ask yourself, what is important today
Hmm.
versus what do I do today? And
Yeah.
that one introduction of a new word dramatically changes what is it that you can accomplish, right? Because most of us
Yeah.
do more than like 3 or 4 things well a day, and
Right.
that is like tops, right? And so if you start to ask yourself in the morning, okay, what is the most important thing I can do today? And then the next thing I started to ask now is, what's the most important thing today that will help me get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I'm bridging this continuity. And these little life hacks have been like really interesting. How do you practice gratitude and meditation and like mental health? Is that something
Yeah.
you?
So I think the way that I do that is I've learned to take time for me. Because I've been always working 24/7. COVID has actually been a blessing because now it's forced me to just sit there and think about myself for once. Um, I would say my gratitude comes from even just spending time with my nieces. Like me being able to make them happy is what gives me that gratitude.
Hmm, a
I've
little bit.
tried to meditate, but I find that I can't sit there and relax for 10 seconds. Like I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to, but I can't sit there and clear my mind. So for me, clear my mind is doing an activity that doesn't involve me doing work.
Right. Yeah, I'm similar way. I can't meditate for anything. And then
Yeah.
it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine 2 days ago, saying, look, I can't meditate. If I sit and start to, not think about anything, it gets really noisy in my head all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Thoughts start to uh, come to the top. And he said something crazy that I never understood. Yeah, I'm still digesting it. He's like, look, the point of meditation is not to empty your brain. The point of meditation is to figure out what is the most important thing in your head you're not listening to. And if there's a thought or thoughts that are bubbling to the top, you're supposed to, and that's the point of meditation, you're supposed to listen to yourself. And over the
Yeah.
next 6 months, all those thoughts will eventually dissipate and they'll go away because they're here, they need to get out. So it's okay for your head to be noisy, and that is called meditation. And I've never heard that before. For
Me
me,
either.
I'm gonna be like, blank, white.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? It's supposed to be noisy? The fuck yeah, it's supposed to be
Oh,
noisy because point of meditation is to listen to yourself. And if you have something you have to listen to, it's going to be noisy. How could you be empty? I was like, whoa, dude, you blown my mind. I never thought that
yeah.
point. So I'm gonna give it another shot. I'd love for you
Okay.
to do it with me, Susan. So
Okay,
we
let's
can,
do it together. We'll try. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we
yeah,
can break through.
see, because if that's the point, then I want to listen to myself. I'm like, all right, get noisy. He's like, the thing that we do really well in life is judge our thoughts. And what
Yeah.
meditation forces you to do is just release your thoughts. And I was like, huh.
Hmm.
So then I just want to sit for 30 minutes and let everything come, old, new, young, dream. And then for me, it's like steam coming off the top of the dome.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stop and think about the thought. I'm just going to release the thought. And then I was like, man, that sounds real dope. I'm going to try it out. So, I'll let you know how it goes, but that's the definition I've never heard before, you know?
Me
Um,
either. Good to know.
yeah, so let's get to the last 2 points.
Okay.
First of all, thank you so much again for jumping on and sharing this wisdom. You're gonna be in my book. I appreciate it.
So exciting.
Um, so the inspired version of Susan, you're up, you're pumped. That's the part that the world wants to see. The
Hmm.
days where you're like, I don't want to get out of bed, or the pitch that you worked really hard on didn't come through because the client went with somebody else, or how do you get pumped? What's the routine? What's the formula to change your mindset?
So I think the formula to change my mindset is to think of what's actually going to happen that day. So I look at it two ways. So with my 9 to 5, I struggle to get up to go to work and get through the day. But if I know I have a wedding that day and I have to get up at 4 a.m., I'm so pumped. I can wake up. I'm that early bird. I'm so energetic. But it's because I love what I do.
Mm,
If I didn't have that passion and if I didn't have that love, I wouldn't be able to wake up and get through it the way that I do.
that's big value bomb, guys. Uh, the conversation started with how do you break through moments of stress and pain, and
Yeah,
and Susan has said it clearly and loudly. When you ask yourself, "What do I love to do?" you automatically give yourself the motivation you need and the adrenaline and the dopamine to just do it. You don't
yeah,
even think about it. You just do it, you know? And that's the secret sauce. And most of us don't ask that question, what do I love to do?
yeah,
And and sometimes we're afraid to ask what do we love to do because we're so focused on what are the things I'm not good at,
right.
right?
And that's society.
Yeah. So how often do you focus on the things you're not good at and then try to get better at it? And I've given
Mhm.
up on that. I'm like, yo, the things that I suck at, I've sucked at it for 45 years. Oh, it's cool. And then
Yeah.
here's that I'm good at, or the things that I think I'm good at. So I'm gonna work on those. Um, is that a conscious thought pattern now as you got into your like zone of this is what Susan is, this is what I do?
Yeah, and it is, but I think it works on both hands for me. So on with my business level, um, I don't try to the challenges that I take on, I will try to do things to make my business better. But if I work at a look at it at a work level, it's things there that I know that I need to improve on. But it's also because I put more love, more devotion, more passion into my business than I do for work.
Right, 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 right.
So now I'm almost trying to flip it now. So I'm trying to take my skills that I have in my business and correlate that into my 9 to 5.
Right, right. And it's funny you said that because so much of the folks that I speak to about entrepreneurship, that's what I hope people. I said, look, don't worry about making money. Don't worry about
Mhm.
sales and rejections. You will 100% learn more about you when you're on your own than any other program in school and
Yeah,
education. And even the version that your parents give you on a plate, Satish, this is who you are, right? And then you go start a side hustle, regardless of what it is. It could be a Shopify store selling rubber bands. I don't care. The minute you say I'm going to do something for myself and take different risks, there's a whole new set of skill sets or
yeah,
weaknesses or areas of improvement or like a little light that you shine on yourself that nobody else is going to shine on.
yeah,
And then you meet that person and then you're like, ooh, who's this new person? Do I like this person? Is that the person I was supposed to be? How do I
yeah.
become this person? It's crazy. Like, the first year we did Daisy Fest, we had 30,000 people show up.
Wow.
But prior to that, I've spent 10 years DJing in empty nightclubs, being that guy at 4 a.m. handing out flyers to people coming out of clubs, doing my own gigs and renting places and nobody showing up, and people showing up, and university parties and all. So I've already built this muscle memory on rejection and failure and success.
Yeah,
For me, Young Dundas will be another failure or another moment of success. That was it. It wasn't anything deeper than that. But for
yeah.
everybody else, it was like, holy shit, Young Dundas Square, you got that spot, man, and 30,000 people. I'm like, yeah, it's an application I filled out, and then they gave me the spot. and
But and it's funny though because even things that everybody comes to us and say it's such a huge accomplishment, I just don't feel like it is. It doesn't phase me. Like the
yeah,
same thing for you too. It doesn't seem like it's such a big deal.
yeah, and what's the big deal at Daisy Fest is not the organization, the operation, but the fact that 20,000 people got their butts out of the
Yeah,
to come and experience something, or 32 artists that experience a rock star moment for the very first time in their life, or that little kid who for the first time saw a version of the culture that made sense because it was remixed, and they're like, wait, there's brown people that look like me with grills and skinny jeans and wife beaters, and like, what? That for me
yeah,
was like awesome success. Just like I'm sure the big weddings versus small weddings is is a process versus a happy couple for you,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Amazing, man. Uh, that's it. I think you laid out a great blueprint for us on how to take your love and your passion and not having to compromise between side hustle and 9 to 5, which is something people always struggle with. Like, can I do?
yeah,
Hell yeah, you can. If you're willing to give up some stuff to take the room, you can't do 9 to 5 and a side hustle and party like a rock star every weekend and have a robust social network and Netflix binge time and You got to cut things off to give things room to do stuff.
Yeah. And
And
it's you will go through a period of that though. So I did all of those things at once, but then you burn
yeah,
out.
yeah, 100%. And there's some, and as a last point, like, talk to me about the power of the word no. I've learned how to say no with love to so many,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So saying no is such a hard thing. It's one thing I probably is my greatest weakness. I can't say no to people. I've always been a people pleaser. I've always tried to do everything to make sure everything's done for everyone. But there comes a point where you have to realize that you just need to say no.
Yeah,
And that doesn't come with unless you go through all of those experiences that you've had.
yeah, 100%. And that's the one way you can very quickly start to own your life again by simply
Yeah,
starting
it
to say
is.
no. And it's a secret that I learned the tough way because, like you, I want to be everywhere. I want to be at the DJ parties. I want to be at
Yeah.
the events. I want to be at every startup pitch. And I was like, no, 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 out of love. Uh, and there was also a fear that if I said no, 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 people are gonna say no, no, no to me. So I was like,
Right.
I gotta say yes to everything, because then if I don't say yes, they'll. But that's not the way it works, man. You know, people I think eventually recognize that you're saying no out of respect. Because if I'm gonna show up to your event, if I'm gonna show up to something you're organizing, I'm gonna be 100% present because I've
Right.
made the time to be there and not to show. And then I'm like, I can't. What's this?
Yeah. And a million things running through your head at once. It's the
Uh,
worst.
so this is great. Susan, I'd like to officially announce that Donovan is training me to be a wedding MC, and I'm starting Beautiful Beginnings 9.0. And all my weddings are going to be free, so it's going to be a competitive starting next year. No, just kidding. I love what you do. You're awesome. Anybody that wants to follow you, follow this page, and most of you folks already do it, and hopefully the people that are following me, even if you're not getting married, that's not the point of this conversation. Is just to find new role models and new formulas and new blueprints for each other, and that's what that is.
Yeah.
Please follow Beautiful Beginnings and Susan, and reach out. I just said, Susan, share some wisdom, and she did. So this is
Yeah. Always
uh,
fucking help.
yeah. So any big thing that you're working on for the next 6 months that you want to share anything about?
Nothing big coming up. I'm focusing right now on putting together packages and shoots just to show couples of what they can actually do now. I know we can't celebrate weddings the way that we used to, so I'm focusing on showing them different ways that we actually can. So you can still have that wedding, just more of an intimate feel.
That's incredible, man. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what you come up with.
Yeah.
Cool. Listen, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time as
Thank you for
always.
having me. I'm so glad I got to talk to you. It's been so long.
I know, right? And like, coffee's flowing. I'm gonna go hit my to-do list after this.
Good.
But please do experiment with meditation. Let me know what you think.
I
I'm gonna
will.
what's up with you? What's going down?
Sounds good.
All right, homie. Okay. See
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.